You, the chosen one, the mystic, the empath. You didn't ask for this. You only wanted to live in your truth, to heal, to shine, to walk the path of light. But someone decided your light was too much. And they didn't come at you with fists or fire. No, they came with whispers. They came with shadows. I just thought people should know who you really are. One sentence, that's all it takes. And suddenly, people you loved vanish like mist. Your phone goes quiet, smiles disappear, eyes narrow when you walk into the room. And the truth, the real truth, no one wants to hear it. You've stepped into the silent war zone of the modern age, where character assassination isn't just common, it's a dark art. And your reputation? Collateral damage. This is Mystical Illumination, and if you're seeing this, really feeling this, it's because you've been there. You've felt the floor fall out from beneath your spirit. You've watched your identity get hijacked and twisted beyond recognition. You've gone from healer to villain, from trusted to toxic. But hear me now, what you endured was more than betrayal. It was spiritual warfare, ancient in origin, modern in tactic, and it was designed not just to wound you, but to erase you. They targeted you because of your light, your openness, your vulnerability, because you feel deeply, because you speak truth. And the truly devastating part, smear campaigns work. They work because they tap into something primal. The human impulse to believe the first story told, to avoid conflict, to cling to drama, to reject discomfort before seeking understanding. So today, we walk into the shadows others avoid. We expose the machinery behind these psychic strikes. We unravel the anatomy of a smear campaign. How it starts before you even know you're in it. How it spreads like a virus. And why you, the empath, the Lightworker, are always the one they target. If you're still reeling from this kind of attack, this truth is your lifeline. If you've survived one, this is your confirmation. And if you haven't faced it yet, consider this your spiritual shield. Because once you see the weapon, you can never be destroyed by it again. You feel it before you can name it. That cold shift in the room, that silent tension in the air. The texts stop coming. The energy changes. The eyes avoid yours. Or worse, they glare. You, the chosen one, you're not imagining it. This isn't just gossip. This is psychological warfare. This is strategic spiritual sabotage. A smear campaign is a weapon designed to isolate you, to cut you off from your roots, your community, your allies, your sanity, to make you question your own worth and your own reality. And if you're an empath, a healer, a mystic walking the sacred path, then this kind of attack often hits harder than the relationship or trauma that came before it. Because the smear campaign doesn't just hit your ego, it hits your soul. It's a creeping shadow that moves in silence, long before you realize what's happening. It doesn't yell, it suggests. It doesn't fight you face to face. It hides behind masks and murmurs. It begins when the abuser starts planting seeds, tiny, poisonous seeds of doubt, not just about your actions, but about your sanity, your integrity, your soul. And they do it with precision. To others, they play the patient martyr, the one who tried so hard to love you, the one who endured you and your problems. Behind closed doors, they twist your truth into performance. They gather allies, people who never heard your side, only their rehearsed monologue of victimhood. And the saddest part, it works. Because most people don't ask questions. They just listen to the first voice. They go along to get along. They don't want discomfort, so they believe the lie. But you were never the lie. You were the light that exposed it. You, the chosen one, the mystic walking in truth. There's something you need to understand about the smear campaign. Its timing is no accident. It doesn't strike when you're strong. It waits. It waits until the very moment you rise up, when you finally find the courage to draw a boundary, when you decide to walk away, when you choose truth over trauma. That's when it hits, and it hits hard, because you're vulnerable, emotionally drained, already staggering from the weight of the toxic relationship or manipulative dynamic. Your nervous system is on edge. Your spirit is tired. And that's when the shadows pounce. But don't miss this part. It's not just random cruelty. It's punishment. It's their twisted way of saying, if I can't control you anymore, I'll control the way the world sees you. Let that sink in. They can't possess your light, so they try to dim it from every angle. And if you're an empath, if you're one who gave second chances, who kept their secrets, who stood up for them even while they were hurting you behind closed doors, then this betrayal cuts deeper than bone. Because while you were protecting their image, they were poisoning yours. And the worst part, they've been planning it. Long before you left, long before you even realized how dark things had become. They knew exactly who to go after. This wasn't random. Look back. You'll see it. The smear campaign went straight for your inner circle, the friends who truly knew your heart, the family members who might have had the resources to help you, the community that could have sheltered your truth. That wasn't coincidence, that was strategy. They targeted your strongest pillars first, because if those fall, you fall easier. And they didn't just spread generic lies. No, they tailored their attacks with precision. In your workplace, they questioned your competence. In your spiritual community, they hinted that you were unhealed or operating from ego. In your role as a parent, a leader, a healer, they planted seeds of doubt. They knew what would stick. They knew how to stir whispers in the places that mattered most. The lies weren't random. They were engineered to fit your world like a toxic glove. And if you've been through it, you felt the sting of every misplaced look, every "I'm just concerned" that echoed like a dagger, every so-called friend who never asked you for your side of the story. And then comes the silence, the social shunning, the invisible wall between you and the world you once trusted. You walk into a room and feel like a ghost. People smile, but their eyes betray something colder. And suddenly, you're alone. This is the second trauma, the one no one talks about. The abandonment, the rejection, the sense that your name is now radioactive, and it serves a dark purpose. It isolates you from anyone who might have said, "Hey, this doesn't sound like them." It cuts you off from reality checkers, from support, from healing, and worst of all, it wraps you in shame. A shame so heavy, so surreal, you start wondering, could they be right about me? Maybe I am the villain in this story. Maybe it is my fault. But listen to me. That voice, that doubt, it's not yours. It's the echo of a weaponized lie. It's what happens when someone else's darkness tries to drown your light. But your light is ancient, and it doesn't die. It remembers. You, Mystic, you were never the problem. You were the mirror, and that's what they couldn't handle. To those of you who carry the light, the empaths, the healers, the intuitive souls who came here to mend what's broken, this part is especially for you. Because when a smear campaign strikes someone like you, it cuts far deeper than gossip or rumor. It isn't just character assassination. It feels like soul betrayal. You feel everything. That's your superpower. But here, it becomes your raw, exposed nerve. You don't just hear the judgment in their voices. You absorb it. You don't just see the turning away. You feel it in your body, like a grief that has no grave. And then comes the inner spiral, because you've always looked within, always tried to take accountability. So when the world flips the script and paints you as the manipulator, the abuser, the toxic one, you start to wonder, did I miss something? Was I the problem? Did I do harm and not even realize it? And that's how your greatest strength, your empathy, gets used against you. Weaponized, twisted into self-doubt. What was once sacred becomes suspect even to your own mind. And let's not forget, you built your identity around values like authenticity, compassion, integrity. These weren't just ideals. They were your way of being, your purpose, your why. So when someone calls those into question, when your name is whispered with suspicion, your actions twisted, your motives smeared, it doesn't just hurt. It threatens to unravel the core of who you are. But here's where it gets even more disorienting. The gaslighting isn't just personal anymore. It becomes communal, collective. You were the one being mistreated. You know this in your bones. You were patient. You held space. You tried everything. You stayed longer than you should have. And now, the person who hurt you is suddenly the victim. And you're cast as the threat, the unstable one, the problem. Reality doesn't just feel upside down. It feels hijacked. And you start questioning not just the memories, but your very ability to perceive truth. Maybe I imagined it all. Maybe I'm not as grounded as I thought. Maybe they're right about me. Let's name it. This is psychological violence, spiritual warfare, a distortion field meant to disarm you, so you no longer trust your own sight, your own knowing. But listen, you do know, and your spirit remembers. Even when the world gaslights you, your soul holds the receipts. Make no mistake, this isn't just petty behavior. This is the art of spiritual sabotage, crafted by individuals who operate in shadow. These are the mask wearers, the ones who show the world a curated smile, but only reveal their venom in private. When you go through a smear campaign, you're not just dealing with one person's insecurity. You're facing someone who is weaponizing perception itself. Behind the mask is a wound, but not the kind that seeks healing. This is the wound that feeds on control, on validation, on destruction. They punish you for walking away, for reclaiming your voice, for no longer bending to their will. Their motives are primal, to protect the illusion they've built, to isolate you from the people who might see through it, to gather sympathy from others, while they quietly twist the knife behind your back. And they succeed, often, because they are masters of projection. They accuse you of everything they've done. They cry while they destroy. They play the victim while acting as predator. But here's what they can't steal: your essence, your truth, the radiance they tried to snuff out. What you've encountered is ancient, older than language, older than time. Mystics throughout history have spoken of it. Dark energy, shadow frequency, a vibration that moves through certain souls like a parasite seeking light to consume. Psychology gives it a name: the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. Three heads of the same beast, void of empathy, obsessed with power, addicted to control. These are the ones who see relationships as tools, people as assets or threats, love as leverage, and when you no longer serve their need for praise, obedience, or attention, you become a target, your light. It threatened their illusion, your independence. It shattered their sense of control, your refusal to shrink. It ignited their rage, but let this awaken you, not break you, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're no longer trapped in their spell. And from this place of clarity, you rise, not bitter, but wiser, not hardened, but stronger, not vengeful, but resurrected. So what stirs the beast? What calls forth that sudden storm of manipulation, slander, and sabotage? It's simple and sacred. Your growth, your evolution threatens them. Your light exposes what they've worked so hard to hide. Your healing reveals the depth of their unhealed wounds. And your boundaries, those holy acts of self-preservation, ignite a rage they can barely contain. Make no mistake, the moment you step into your power, the moment you walk away from the toxic dynamic, leave the job they tried to dominate, end the partnership that was draining your soul, or simply stop dancing to their drama, you've just declared spiritual independence. And to the ego-bound, the control-hungry, the shadow-driven, that is war. In their fractured perception, your freedom is an offense. Your no is betrayal. Your truth is heresy. And so they retaliate, not with self-awareness or introspection, but with projection, smear campaigns, character assassination disguised as concern, and a twisted sense of moral obligation to warn others about you. This is how the narcissistic entity justifies the destruction it unleashes. They tell themselves, and anyone who will listen, that you are the danger, that they are simply protecting others from harm. But you see through it, because you've awakened. If you identify as an empath, an intuitive, a healer, a mystic, you're not imagining it. You have been targeted, you have been hunted, and not by accident. Your soul signature, your energetic frequency, your luminous heart, it attracts these entities like moths to a flame, not because you're weak, but because you're powerful. You see the good in everyone, even when it hurts you. You give chance after chance, even when others would have walked away. You hold space, offer grace, speak life. And that's exactly what they crave, and what they eventually resent. Because your depth makes them feel shallow. Your clarity reveals their chaos. Your loyalty triggers their abandonment wounds. And when you finally decide to step away, it's not just rejection to them, it's annihilation. And so they attack the very thing they once worshipped. They burn the temple they once tried to live in. And if that wasn't enough, your social credibility, your authenticity, the love others have for you, makes the smear campaign even sweeter for them. Because in their world, what matters most isn't healing, it's control. To see someone as respected as you, as light-filled, as soul-centered, be publicly doubted, whispered about, abandoned. It feeds them. It validates their illusion. It makes them feel powerful, if only for a moment. And here's the hardest truth of all. The very qualities that make you so spiritually advanced are the same qualities these shadow entities seek to exploit. Your empathy, used to guilt you. Your compassion, used to keep you tethered. Your vision, used to blur your clarity with false hope. You see beyond the mask, and for a time you believed the soul you glimpsed was real. And maybe it was, once. But it's not the part they're choosing to live from. And still, you hesitated. Still, you hoped. Still, you tried to love them into wholeness. But that is not your burden, not anymore, because now you see clearly they didn't want healing, they wanted supply. And when you stopped giving it, they declared spiritual war. But let me tell you something, Chosen One. You're still standing. You're still glowing. You're still rising. The light in you is real. The path you walk is sacred. And no smear campaign, no matter how venomous, can rewrite the truth of your soul. You are not what they say you are. You are what the divine knows you are. And no amount of projection can touch that. At the center of every spiritual ambush, behind the whisper campaigns and the sideways glances, lie two of the oldest tools in the arsenal of darkness: triangulation and gossip. These are not just social tactics. They are ancient spiritual distortions. Twin daggers wielded by those too afraid to confront truth, too attached to their illusions to grow, too intoxicated by control to love purely. Triangulation is dark sorcery, disguised as communication. It's when the orchestrator doesn't come to you directly, but spins conversations about you to others. They carefully curate versions of reality, controlling who hears what, always painting themselves as the trusted narrator, and you as the unreliable villain in someone else's play. They'll say one thing to your best friend, something slightly different to your colleague, and something else again to your sibling, all while ensuring that these people don't compare notes. Because if they did, the entire spell would shatter. And with each whisper, they isolate you further. Not physically, perhaps, but energetically. You begin to sense shifts. Spaces that once felt warm now feel off. People look at you differently. Trust erodes not because of anything you've done, but because a false narrative has taken root behind your back. Now, enter gossip. The poison that seeps into your sacred circles. The testing tool. The slow drip of venom. They don't start with the worst accusations. No, they're strategic. They begin with small digs, subtle hints.
That's the beauty of it.
She always seemed a little intense, don't you think? Did she ever tell you what happened with? And when they sense someone is open, they push further. Half-truths become exaggerated. Private things you once confided in vulnerability are twisted. Outright lies are served with conviction. Before long, the web is spun. You stand in the middle of a narrative storm, while those around you only know fragments, never realizing they've been turned into pawns. The true danger of the smear campaign isn't just the lies. It's how it exploits the human psyche. We live in a world conditioned to trust negative information more than the positive. It's called negativity bias, an evolutionary trait that once protected us from danger, but now leaves us vulnerable to deception. All it takes is one serious accusation, one dramatic tale, to undo years of goodwill and integrity. Even people who aren't sure what to believe often lean toward caution, just in case. Even those who don't take sides begin to quietly step back. And so, your reputation, the spiritual fruit of a lifetime of soul work, can be undone in an instant. This is also where the social proof kicks in. When others seem to believe the story, more and more people follow suit without questioning. They say, well, if so many people feel that way, maybe there's something to it. And so the darkness spreads, not because people are evil, but because they're unaware, because they're easily influenced, because they haven't done the shadow work that would make them question the easy narrative. And the orchestrator knows exactly who to target first. The emotionally suggestible, the socially insecure, the ones with unhealed wounds or unconscious envy toward you. They build a base, a few loyal believers, and then the wildfire spreads. And perhaps the most insidious part of all is how these shadow workers cloak their malice in morality. They do not see themselves as abusers. They see themselves as saviors, crusaders, messengers of truth. Listen to their words. I just wanted to warn people. I thought it was important others knew the real story. I'm only sharing because I care. But beneath those words is a hidden agenda. Not to protect, but to punish. Not to enlighten, but to control. Not to serve truth, but to bend it in their favor. They weaponize concern. They baptize betrayal. They turn gossip into gospel. And worst of all, they believe they're doing good. That's what makes them so convincing, so dangerous, so hard to detect. But you, Mystic, you see through it, even if you can't always prove it. Even if no one believes you yet, even if you stand alone in the wreckage. You know what really happened, and so does the divine. And in time, so will others, because truth has a vibration, and no matter how many shadows try to silence it, eventually it resonates, and it rises. Listen closely, mystics and empaths. If you are to survive the battlefield of energy, you must learn to read the terrain. These shadow players don't operate with brute force. They move like phantoms, strategic, precise, and nearly invisible. They orchestrate accidental meetings with your friends, knowing full well they arranged them. With a smile, they say, "Oh, wow, what a coincidence." But behind the charm is an agenda. They came to plant seeds, not flowers but thorns. They keep the tone light, never overtly accusatory. Instead, they drop veiled hints, suggestions, little concerns that cannot be challenged because they were never said directly. This is a silent warfare, one built not on grand lies, but on subtle distortions. Their genius lies in the use of half-truths, just enough realness to cloak the falseness. They avoid writing anything down. They don't text, don't post, don't email. They leave no fingerprints. Each person in your life receives a different version of the story, customized to their relationship with you. To some, it's whispered disappointment. To others, it's deep concern. And in every case, it's wrapped in fake empathy. But perhaps the most painful weapon they wield is your own vulnerability. The very things you told them in confidence, the wounds you let them see, the tears you shed in their presence. They now use those sacred moments against you. They poison the well before you ever sense the toxin. By the time you realize something's wrong, those around you have already taken sips from a narrative you never agreed to. Make no mistake, chosen ones. The most dangerous campaigns against you aren't made of wild lies or fantastical slander. They're built carefully, like a structure of shadows, crafted from things that seem almost true. So if this is hitting home for you, if you've recognized these patterns in your life, if you've been the target, the scapegoat, the whispered about soul, take a breath, because what we've just uncovered is only half the story. This is part one of a two-part transmission on the anatomy of a smear campaign. In part two, we'll step even deeper into the shadows, into the digital warfare, the gaslighting aftermath, and the sacred alchemy that transforms your pain into power. But before you go, I want to invite you into a sanctuary of truth. A circle of survivors, lightworkers, and awakened souls who are walking this very path alongside you. I've created a sacred container over at patreon.com/Mystical Illumination, where we dive deeper into the unseen layers of spiritual warfare, reveal the full protection protocols, and offer support that goes beyond what I can share in public. When you join us, you'll gain access to guided meditations to reclaim your energy and strengthen your aura, the Shadow Protection Protocol, built specifically for empaths under attack. A private soul family that sees you, believes you, and walks beside you. And direct Q&A sessions where I offer personal guidance to your specific journey. You were never meant to walk this path alone. And you're not crazy. You're awakening. Join us at patreon.com/Mystical Illumination and stay tuned for part 2, where we decode the spiritual algorithms of smear, reclaim our sovereignty, and rise again in our full divine power. Until then, protect your peace, honor your light, and remember, you are not what they say. You are what the divine remembers. Stay lit, mystics. I'll see you in part 2.